I'm Patrick Bailey with IQlist.com. Today is February 17th, 2020, and in this video I'll be showing you what to do when the extruder on your Prusa Mini starts clicking. Okay, before I go into this, I'm going to go off on a rant for just a minute here. Well, not a rant, maybe educational rant. So there's a lot of people who are, in the last year, or even right now with the Prusa Mini, who are coming into this community for the first time. They've never 3D printed, they've seen it, and this is their first 3D printer. If that's you, I'm talking to you for a minute. Last year, I was always telling people to buy the Prusa i3 Mark III as a kit. And I said a kit because we are not at the stage where it's like a microwave oven. A 3D printer is going to have issues. We're getting better over time, but you've got filament going through, you've got heat, you've got a lot of things going on. So although we're getting more reliable, it's not like our microwave oven where you can just use it, abuse it, and not fix it. So if you have a Prusa Mini and this is your first time dealing with this, or any 3D printer, you're going to have to do some fixes. Now, having said that, though, the Prusa i3 Mark III and the Prusa Mini so far has proved to be fairly reliable compared to what we had several years ago. So I think they're reliable. I think they do a good job. But even so, you're going to have to fix some things from time to time. And I do think things are going to get better. Maybe 5 years from now, you can have a closed system and not have to worry about stuff. But for right now, you're going to have to worry about some stuff. So with that in mind, what's the problem here? What's going on? I don't know if I have a good picture here or not on some of these guys. But anyway, you're on the Prusa Mini. The thing that's grabbing the filament and pushing it through is located right here on the back side and it pushes it through the tube, unlike the i3 Mark III, where it's actually located right here, right next, pretty close to the hot end. But with that in mind, it's kind of more of a closed system. So what can happen is several things. So all of a sudden, if your filament can't get through, you might hear clicking, which right now, mine is actually doing that. So hopefully I can show it somehow. I've done it like 3 times. Watch, I'll do a video and now it won't work. But I'll try my best to get it where it'll like, and you'll see, the filament's just not coming out. And there could be several reasons for that. There could be an issue with the filament. Maybe your filament gets a little too narrow at that point, and so you can't grab onto it. Or it could be it got stuck a little bit and the gears ground against a little bit and kind of shredded it a little bit and now it can't get through. Or it could be there's some issues in the nozzle where the nozzle has something stuck in it and it just can't, it's getting like, example, not really true. If you have a pebble in there and now it can't get through the nozzle, it's going to attempt to push it, but it can't push past that pebble. That's an example. There's not really pebbles in there, but there could be debris in there that somehow gets stuck in there and now it can't push through and you get this where it's attempting to push it through, but it can't, and you'll hear this click back. So with that, there's a couple articles I found, which might be good to go over. There's this one, Click Extruder Under Extrusion and Clogging Mini, that Prusa has here, this article, and I'll put a link in the show notes to it. And there's also this one, which is a little different, talking about the hot end. So I don't think it's going to be a problem in here, but I will go through with this because I think I'm going to do 4 steps. I think I'm going to go through here and purge it. That might be a solution. Adjust it. There's a little adjustment at the, well, let me show you a picture here. A little easier on their picture. Right here, there's an adjustment. You can adjust the tension because it doesn't want to hold it super tight. It wants to be springy to hold against it. So you can adjust that to make it a little more forceful to hold on to it. The third thing I might try to do is they include a needle in there. Not hypodermic needle, that's the wrong word. Anyway, they include a little sharp needle that you would use for acupuncture. There you go, acupuncture needle that helps you go in there and it might help clear the clog. And the fourth thing is to do a whole atomic pull, which is going to require me taking a few of the things apart. So I'm going to probably go through all the steps because mine's broken and I'd like to fix it. So with that, let's actually get going and I'll get my camera crew down here and we'll get this fixed. Okay, so let's go through this. Let's see if I can get this to repeat. So first of all, going through the procedures, what you're going to want to do is just simply do a purge, which I have to do right now to hopefully repeat the noise that's going to occur. So I'll go down here and hit filament, go to purge, and what's going to do is it's going to get up to temperature and it'll purge a little bit. And hopefully, if that fixes your problem, fantastic. It's not going to fix mine though. There we go, we're purging a little bit of filament. Oh, there's a noise. Now what could happen is you could have a little bad section up here where it's right in here is where it's holding and pushing it through, is the motor right here. And if it's having issues, what you might try to do is hit purge and then help it, push just a little bit and help it push it through. And the idea is you get past that bad section where it's trying to grab onto. And if that's your case, fantastic, you're done. But if not, like me, if I keep hitting purge here, eventually I'll get that duh noise. There you go.
Is it just not grabbing it? Is that why it's making that noise?
That's a potential thing. So what could happen is, if you imagine, there's a couple things that could happen. So if all of a sudden it gets stuck for some reason, these gears might grind against it, and it's trying to push it through, and it grinds against it, and now it can't get it through at all because it's worn itself down.
Slipping.
So you have to push it. But in my case, it's intermittent. There you go. You can hear that noise, which can be louder. But what's bad is when it can't push through, or it hesitates to push through for a time, nothing's coming out, or a different rate of flow is coming out, and that could mess your print up. So I've had times on different prints where it's gotten stuck, like on my Prusa i3 Mark III, it got stuck, and it can't push anything through for a long time. Eventually it grinds off that filament, and now you got no noise. And then all of a sudden it keeps attempting to print and nothing's coming out. Anyway, so there's your first step. If that works for you, fantastic. And remember, you can also push a little bit and assist it. If that works, great. But in my case, it's not. So the next thing you can do is you can probably attempt to adjust it. I haven't had to do this on this guy, but if you look back here, there's a little bolt right here. And you can turn, if you turn it clockwise, if you tighten it, it's going to tighten how hard it holds the filament and pushes it through. If you loosen it, it'll loosen it. Now, going too tight is as bad as going too loose. If it tries to hold on too tight, it can grind on it. It's not good. So you might have to find a happy medium. So far, I haven't had to adjust mine. I think it's okay. It's also spring-loaded in there, so it's trying to hold on to it, but it's not trying to just grind it. So you kind of have to have a happy medium. So you might have to adjust that. If that fixes you, fantastic. The next thing, now the third thing, if that doesn't work, is in your kit you should have a needle. Acupuncture needle. I don't know why I can't remember saying acupuncture needle. I'm going to leave that in there because I bought a bunch. This might be a better idea. If you go on Amazon, you can probably buy a kit that seals, I have little kids around here, so I don't want acupuncture needles just on the floor, so I like to close them up afterwards. But, there's one in the kit, so. And the idea here is this is all metal. And so what you do is you would get this up to temperature, hit preheat, go to PLA, make sure you're at temperature, 215, or whatever, material you have in there. And then you're going to maneuver down this needle, and you're going to thread the needle, and you're going to get this acupuncture in there, and you're just kind of go up and down. And the idea is there's probably something in there blocking it. That's, like a little bit of debris over time, or, filament's not perfect, so over time there might be a little dust or something in there that just collects over time and doesn't get through. Having a little pebble, a tiny little pebble or something, who knows. It gets stuck, and it messes things up, and things aren't coming out so clean. So doing this might break that up. And so you just do that a couple of times. And then when you're done, go back and purge. And if that fixes you, fine. Fantastic. But you can see I just got some noise there. I don't think that's enough for me. I'm going to get a little bit of noise here. Or another thing, not one of the things I've covered, but also what could happen is if your winding gets knotted. If all of a sudden it gets knotted over each other and it's not pulling out, it'll attempt to pull out, and this whole thing will probably get crunched up in here and it can't pull it out. But that's not what's going on here at all. So we got all that. So next, I'm going to hit done. I'm going to be lazy here. I'm going to turn this off and back on again because we still want it to cool off. We don't want it to, I want it to get down to a lower temperature because the next thing I'm going to do is called an atomic pull or a cold pull. So I'm going to let it go down in temperature, and I'm going to take this thing apart so that I can get to there and hopefully, you know, pull it out and clean it out. So we'll show that here in a second. Okay, I take that back. I was thinking about doing it one way, and now I'm going to do another way. So what I'm going to do, go to filament, I'm going to unload. Just going to unload this guy, which is required to get it back up to temperature. So I should have done that, but I'm rethinking my process now. So let that go here. Okay, well it's all white, so it's hard to see. But that's all pulled out. We'll pull the last bit out here. Boom. Okay, and then we'll let it cool down. Oh, there's a cool down button. I never thought about that. Cool down. So that's a better way to do it. Hit preheat, go to cool down.
Then to turn it on and off.
Then to turn it on and off, because for that brief second there's no fan going, and if you turn it off and walked away, there could be some damage because it wants to, there's going to be some heat go some places it shouldn't go. Okay, so with that, we'll let it cool down a little bit. But what I'm going to do is in your Prusa kit you should have a little wrench they gave you. And that is to take this apart. So there should be a side, I think it's 10 millimeters. And I have not done this, so we will see how well we do. Oh, yeah, don't hit the fan. In fact, you might want to just let it cool all the way down, but I'm a little too adventurous. So we'll pull this out and see what we can see, because I've never seen this. Okay. So there we go, we got a little wedge in there, that's good. So we'll just put that aside over here. Oh, no, behind it, there we go. And then what we should see, I'm going to take this one off too. Well, probably not. If I'm worried, another thing that could happen is if I'm worried, there's another tube like this inside of here. But at this point, I'm not too worried about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that as is. I'm going to, wherever I put these tools, there we go. I'm going to take this. And what I'm going to do is I am going to go to preheat, go to PLA, and let it heat up. And I'm going to stick this in there by hand. Now up here, we're not hot. I can touch this. This is okay. Down there, it's going to be very, very hot. Okay, we're at 210. We should be good. So I'm going to just push this through with a little bit of force, but not, I don't need to go crazy on it. And we can see I got filament coming out, right? And so what I'm going to do is a couple of things. Let it come through, take that off, and then I'll just pull it all the way out. We'll see if any gunk came out of there. I don't see much. Next what I'm going to do, cut that, I'll stick it down. Make sure a little's coming through there. And then I'll go to preheat and I'll go to cool down. And this is where my expertise is not quite expertise-y because I've only had so many 3D printers and I've only had to do this a couple of times. So what they talk about is an atomic pull or a cold pull, where you put this down here like this and then you let it cool down a little bit. Not all the way, but I've heard people say 140 degrees C, I've heard 100 degrees C, I've heard 80 degrees C. So anyone can post a comment. What is your experience? What have you done? If someone has a different idea on what they should do. I've been doing 100 degrees C, so I'll let it cool down to 100 degrees C, and then it'll be a little sticky, and I'll pull it up by force, not too much force, and hopefully whatever gunk is in there will get pulled out. And then I'll repeat that process two or three more times, well, one or two more times, and then hopefully that'll be good, and then I can just simply reattach this guy back on. Okay, we're down to 169, 167. Okay, there we go. We're 100 degrees. So now I'll just, remember, this is a lever. I'm going to, not too much force. I'll just pull it out. And I see a little bit of dirt and gunk on there, but you'll see how it's kind of shaped like it now. So it's a little bit different.
I can't see against the white
Oh,
wall.
a little hard to, might be hard to see, but it should be shaped like the nozzle. You see at the end there, it's really pointed. So hopefully that got everything out. If not, I would repeat this process a couple more times. Now, if that doesn't fix it, it's beyond the scope of this video, but the next things I would think about are there's a tube in here that you might need to replace, because I've had mine get squished or burnt out. Or then maybe there's an issue with the nozzle itself. But that's, I'm not doing that on this video. So what I'm going to do now, I would probably do this a couple more times, but for sake of the video, what I'm going to do is put this back on. Tighten that a little bit. And also, having done this now, I think I probably would have moved this closer to here, so I don't have quite the moment arm to pull up and down, so probably a better idea to have this moved over here. Okay, so let me push this through. Cut a little bit. So now we will load the filament, load PLA, and it needs to get warm again. Hit continue. There we go. Oh, didn't like that. Oh, no, it's loading. I don't know what it's beeping about.
Is it hot like that?
Yeah, it's hot. But unfortunately, it didn't load quick enough, so it's actually, it might be hard to see. The end's right there.
Yeah, I see.
So I just have to quick, it says, is the color correct? Hit yes to keep purging slowly as it,
Should have said no.
oh, well, I hit purge.
Color's not correct.
Purge. And this will take a little bit of purging. What you don't want to do at this point is hit load, because it'll just ram through way too much. And I like to put my finger over here so I can just feel it actually really is pulling it. Okay, here's a little knock, so we'll see. That might have fixed it for me, but if not, I'm going to go back here and do a couple more cold pulls. But in fact, you probably should do 2 or 3 at a time while you're up there anyway. So anyway, there you are. So hopefully that process fixes me and I can get back to printing. Hey, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, hey, give it a thumbs down. Also, if you like what we're doing here, subscribe to the channel by clicking the subscribe button. And lastly, have a piece of info to share? Just post a comment.